Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Kelly Duran, and I used to believe in hard work, loyalty, and marriage. I'm 49, and I've spent the better part of the last 2 decades working in offshore engineering. Oil platforms. 28 days on, 14 days off. Grueling shifts, isolated living, but it paid well and gave my ex-wife everything she said she wanted. A home, security, and options I never had growing up dirt poor in southern Louisiana. She said she admired me for being the kind of man who didn't just dream but delivered. I admired her too, or at least the version of her she let me see. Her name was Rachel, and I met her when I was 31. She was a bartender at a seafood joint near the docks in Galveston. We hit it off instantly. She was quick-witted, confident, and told me straight up she didn't want to play house, unless the man she chose had a plan. Lucky for her, I had one. I was up for promotion to rig supervisor and already investing my bonuses in rental properties with my cousin, Marcus, a CPA with a ruthless eye for risk. We got married 11 months later. In the beginning things were good. Really good. She'd send me videos of the house she was decorating, photos of our dog, texts telling me to stay safe, and that she was proud of me. I'd count the days until I was back in her arms, and when I was home, I made the most of every minute. We'd barbecue in the backyard, binge-watch crime docs, take road trips to New Mexico. I even opened a joint investment account in both our names, for our future, she said. Over 18 years, I wired a small fortune back home. Rachel didn't work anymore after year 6. I told myself that was okay. I was doing this for both of us. But all that changed 3 weeks ago. I had just finished a double shift on a floating platform off the Saudi coast when my satellite phone buzzed at 2:47 a.m. I thought it was an emergency. In a way, I guess it was. It was a text from Rachel. I'm leaving you. I'm moving to Palm Springs with Jason. He's 26 and actually here for me. I've taken what's mine. Don't try to stop me. Oh, and I cleaned out the joint account. Rachel. She sent a screenshot right after, balance $0. The same account that had held $198,400 2 days earlier. I didn't throw the phone. Didn't curse or scream. I just sat there, grease still on my hands, boots heavy with salt crust, and stared at the glowing screen like it was someone else's life I was watching burn. I replied with just 2 words. Good luck. Then I turned off the phone, stood up, and took a shower. I didn't eat that night. Didn't sleep. Didn't say a word to anyone on the crew. They'd all been with me long enough to notice something was off, but out here we didn't pry. There were 24 other men depending on me to keep operations running safely. Personal pain didn't excuse failure. Not in this world. The next morning, I logged into our investment portfolio during my lunch break. I nearly choked on my coffee. Not only had she drained the joint checking, but she'd also transferred every cent from our brokerage account, including stocks I had purchased years before we even met. And the name on the receiving account? Rachel Whitmore. Her maiden name. A name she hadn't used in nearly 2 decades. And that wasn't all. The house, our house, was listed for sale. I found the listing online. Price cut for a motivated seller. Photos of every room, including the vintage bourbon cabinet I had built by hand. Except now that cabinet was empty. My collection, gone. I didn't panic. Not right away. Instead, I forwarded everything to Marcus with a subject line. It's time. Protocol Avalanche. That's the code we agreed on years ago. Because unlike Rachel, I'd never been naive about love. You see, after watching too many friends get burned in messy divorces, Marcus and I set up something, Avalanche Holdings, a separate corporation under his firm, created to house the majority of my income. It was legal. Transparent to the IRS. But separate from Rachel. She had no idea it existed. I'd been siphoning off 60% of my salary into it for over 8 years. She thought she cleaned me out. She thought she won. She had no clue she was sitting on a ticking time bomb, and I was done playing the fool. You'd think someone who's survived explosions on a rig, tropical cyclones, and 40-foot swells in the middle of nowhere would be tough enough to handle anything. But heartbreak. That's a different kind of drowning. 3 days after Rachel's text, I was still offshore. My crew thought I had food poisoning or heat stroke. I was quieter, skipping meals, not laughing at jokes I normally would. But inside I wasn't sick. I was splintering. Not because she left, but because of how she left. I gave that woman 18 years of my life. Birthdays, holidays, funerals, I missed them all for work. I thought the sacrifice was mutual. Turns out I was just an ATM with a heartbeat. Worse, she hadn't just drained our accounts. Marcus called me 2 nights later with more news. You sitting down, Cal? I was on my bunk, lights off, staring at the ceiling. I didn't answer. She filed a domestic abuse complaint against you in Harris County. Claimed you were controlling, emotionally unstable. Says she left for her safety. I sat up so fast I hit my head on the steel bunk rail. I've been in Saudi Arabia for 7 weeks. She's lying. She doesn't care. It's just paperwork to her. It lets her block you from the house. Stops you from selling anything. Courts eat this kind of thing up when it's from the wife. I couldn't speak. Rage and betrayal were clawing at my chest, but underneath that was something worse. Shame. Rachel knew exactly what she was doing. She timed everything perfectly, waiting until I was thousands of miles away, setting herself up as the victim. And that 26-year-old she ran off with? Not some random guy. His name was Jason Drew, a so-called fitness entrepreneur, with no W-2 history, 3 bankrupt LLCs, and a reputation for chasing older women with money. Marcus had already dug up everything. Kelly, Marcus said softly, she didn't just leave you. She ambushed you. Legally, emotionally, financially. And she wasn't done. 2 days before my rotation ended, I got a message from my buddy Dave. He works maintenance back in Houston. He'd driven past my house and noticed something. There's a damn for sale sign on your lawn. I checked online. She listed the house through some cash buyer agency. Fast close. Discounted. She forged my signature on the paperwork. Then came the worst blow. My sister, Carla, called me crying. Kelly, I hate to tell you this, but Rachel blocked my number. And Mom's. I went by the house. She told me I wasn't welcome anymore. Said you and her were done and she was moving forward. That she was tired of pretending. Pretending? Pretending. Like the last 18 years of love, of me building everything from scratch with blood and sweat, was some performance for her. I spent the next few days locked in my head. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't focus. My thoughts were ice storms, blizzards of what did I miss? When did she start planning this? Was any of it real? That was the thing. The not knowing. That's what kills you. Not the betrayal, but the questions that rot you from the inside. When I finally flew back to Texas, I didn't go to the house. I went to Marcus's office. He handed me a burner phone, a thick envelope full of printouts, and a key to a private apartment he kept for clients in transition. Kelly, you need to disappear for a few days. Don't let her know you're back. We need time to move. Move how? I asked. That's when he handed me the real blow. Inside the envelope were screenshots. Rachel and Jason. Texting. Laughing. Talking about my money, my career, my death. He works on dangerous rigs, babe. Insurance payout would be clean. You think that'd actually work? Only if he keeps ignoring the signs. Accidents happen out there all the time. And you're still his wife. Think about it. They weren't just talking about divorce. They were talking about my funeral. I felt my blood freeze. We got these from her iCloud. She synced it to the same email you use for your backup drive. Never change the password. Everything, texts, emails, calendar, has been backing up to your cloud for 2 years. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was premeditated character assassination. A coordinated theft of my identity, my wealth, and almost my life. Rachel hadn't just left. She'd rehearsed my exit like a goddamn heist. And for a moment, I didn't feel human anymore. I felt like a ghost in my own life. Everything I built, gone. My name smeared. My family iced out. My home invaded. My wife, orchestrating my downfall while I was out in 120-degree heat, hauling pipes and missing birthdays. It was the darkest moment of my life. But in that darkness, something snapped. No more tears. No more questions. No more Kelly the provider. It was time for Kelly Duran to come back as something else. Something they wouldn't see coming. When you spend most of your adult life on oil rigs, you learn to live with pressure. Steam, torque, steel tension. It teaches you patience. And precision. That was the mindset I had to return to. Not the broken husband. Not the betrayed man. But the strategist. The engineer. The silent threat. Marcus and I sat in his office, the room dark except for the blue glow of 2 monitors and a single desk lamp. I was staring at the iCloud backup, the texts, emails, even photos Rachel had taken with Jason. Smiling. Lounging by my pool. Wearing my Rolex. But the worst photo? They were in my late father's workshop. Jason holding one of Dad's custom wood carvings, grinning like he built the damn thing. I closed the file. You ready to see the rest? Marcus asked. Show me everything. And he did. Rachel hadn't just taken money, she'd been redirecting income from our rental properties. The ones Marcus helped me buy a decade ago when we were flipping distressed homes in East Houston. Rent from those homes was supposed to go into our family trust. Instead, Rachel had been quietly rewriting contracts, forging digital signatures, and rerouting the deposits through a new LLC, Whitmore Real Estate Solutions. Her maiden name again. The LLC was set up in New Mexico, a state known for its anonymous LLC protections. But Marcus? He doesn't just look at paper. He looks for patterns. She used your EIN to open a line of credit. That's identity theft. How much? I asked. 50 grand, already withdrawn. But here's the kicker. Rachel didn't realize I still had access to the trust account she thought she'd erased. See, when we structured our finances years ago, we made one critical agreement. To keep a contingency trust in both our names, accessible only through dual authentication tied to security tokens. She forgot about that. Or maybe thought I'd forgotten. But I didn't. Because I'd hidden the second token in a place only one other soul knew, my mother. The next morning, I drove 4 hours to Mom's trailer in Jasper, Texas. She's tough, stoic, the kind of woman who raised 3 kids on disability checks in a garden. When I told her what happened, she didn't cry. She just walked into her bedroom, opened a weathered shoebox beneath the bed, and handed me a keychain. You always said, just in case. Guess this is the case, huh? I smiled for the first time in weeks. Yeah, Mom. This is the case. That night, I logged into the contingency trust. The screen loaded slowly, almost like it knew the weight of the moment. $1.2 million. Untouched. Unreachable by Rachel. Off limits thanks to a loophole we designed for catastrophic betrayal or death. We never thought we'd use it. But here we were. I called Marcus. Initiate Avalanche Protocol Phase 2. This was the part she never saw coming. We weren't just going to take back what she stole. We were going to reverse engineer her entire con, brick by lying brick. That began with legal documentation. Marcus got our lawyer involved. Gina Travers, a pit bull in heels who didn't flinch at even the most savage of marital warfare. We're filing fraud, identity theft, asset misappropriation, and conspiracy to commit financial harm, she told me flatly. Oh, and the domestic abuse claim? Already disproven. I subpoenaed your employer. Your badge showed you were on a rig for the entire period she claimed abuse. But there was more. Gina had a private investigator friend, Marlon, who'd done jobs for the DA's office before going private. We sent him after Jason Drew. And boy did he find gold. Jason had 3 other victims, older women who filed civil suits but never criminal charges. Each one followed the same pattern. He'd romance them, drain their finances, and vanish. One woman even suspected he tampered with her car brakes. Nothing was proven. But there was smoke. And where there's smoke. 3 days later, Marlon called me while I was staying at a cabin upstate. Kelly, you might want to sit down. Already am. Rachel and Jason are planning to move the stolen funds into a crypto account. Offshore wallet. They think it's untraceable. When? Monday morning. But here's the kicker. Jason's been texting someone named RG. I pulled the metadata. That contact is a real estate agent in Palm Springs. They've already put down a deposit on a house with your money. I didn't feel rage. I felt ready. But then came the moment that twisted the knife even deeper. One of the messages in Rachel's backups had been deleted, intentionally. It was recovered by Marlon's software. It was a drafted letter to a life insurance company, requesting a policy payout. Not because I was dead. But because I was missing, presumed deceased. She was preparing to report me lost at sea. That wasn't just betrayal. That was premeditated annihilation. She wanted me wiped from the map. Legally. Financially. Physically. She underestimated one thing though. I wasn't gone. I was just watching from the shadows. And now, I had every piece of her dirty blueprint in my hands. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I didn't want cold. I wanted precision. I wanted Rachel to feel it, like frostbite settling under her skin, slow and permanent. And I wasn't just coming for justice. I was coming for control. I met with Gina and Marcus in a rented office suite, far from downtown where Rachel or her sleazy boy toy might have eyes or ears. It smelled like fresh paint and new carpet, an unfinished space, perfect for planning destruction. First step, Gina said, sliding documents across the table, is a full asset freeze. Rachel had started moving fast, selling my tools, art, my damn father's war medals on online auctions under a fake profile. We'd already filed motions for emergency injunctions on all shared accounts, immediate suspension of real estate transactions, Civil claims for fraud and identity theft. She forged your name on 3 property documents, Gina added. That alone is criminal. And the domestic violence claim? Already tossed. The judge didn't even need a full hearing. But I wasn't stopping there. I wanted Rachel to know when it all hit that it wasn't the system. It wasn't bad luck. It was me. That night, I used her iCloud backup again. She still hadn't revoked access. Rookie mistake. I sent myself a dozen messages she'd sent to Jason. Kelly won't do anything. He's passive. He just works and sleeps. He's done with tech. I deleted all the money trails. We're in the clear. Dumb. I sent those screenshots straight to Marcus. He added them to our affidavit as evidence of intentional deception. Then came the fun part. I booked a fake consultation with the Palm Springs real estate agent using a burner email. Under a fake name. I asked for more details about the house Rachel and Jason were buying. And when I got those details, Marcus filed a lease pendens on the property, an official notice of pending litigation over ownership. It tanked their ability to close escrow. They're going to panic, Gina grinned. They think they're flying to their dream life. Instead, they'll walk into a legal hurricane. Next step? The insurance company. I booked an in-person appointment, showed them my passport stamps, offshore rig time cards, and the synced text discussing accidents and life insurance payouts. They flagged Rachel's file for fraud investigation. Her application was frozen immediately. But I saved the most personal part for last. I reached out to Rachel's sister, Lena, the only member of her family who never liked me much. But she hated Jason more. Apparently, he hit on her once at a party 2 years ago. She never forgot. Why should I help you, Kelly? Because they'll rob you next. They're burning bridges now. I sent her the photos. The fake insurance claim. The forged documents. She went silent for a full minute. Tell me what you want me to do. Meanwhile, Marlon's team confirmed Rachel had no idea I was back in Texas. She still thought I was floating somewhere near the Persian Gulf, too busy with oil to notice anything. She underestimated my silence. She mistook it for weakness. But I wasn't quiet because I was broken. I was quiet because I was watching. 3 nights before they were scheduled to close on the Palm Springs house, I drove to my old neighborhood in Odessa. Harold, my neighbor of 15 years, welcomed me in with a slap on the back and a cold beer. Been watching them load trucks for days, he said. Looks like they're gutting the place. I set up in his front guest room with binoculars and a laptop. That night, I watched Jason take a piss in the flower bed I planted for Rachel's birthday years ago. I didn't feel hate. I felt clarity. Next day, 9 a.m. sharp, I was in court. Rachel wasn't there. But her lawyer was. Smug. Arrogant. Until Gina submitted our counterfilings, the synchronized time cards, the GPS data, the cloud sync texts, and the forged home listing. By 9:40 a.m., the judge ruled in our favor. Home sale frozen. All Rachel's personal and business accounts locked. Jason named in a civil conspiracy investigation. Orders issued for criminal charges to be reviewed by the DA. And the judge approved my motion to appear as anonymous on the case docket, for strategic legal protection. Translation? Rachel still didn't know I was in town. Didn't know I was behind everything. That night, Harold and I watched from across the street as Rachel got the news. I couldn't hear her, but I saw the moment the email hit her phone. The moment her face changed. The panic. The pacing. The screaming match with Jason. She threw something against the garage wall. Jason walked off, shirtless and smug, still clueless. They didn't know the worst part yet. Tomorrow morning they'd be served face to face. And I would be there. Just outside the frame. Watching her world collapse. The way she tried to collapse mine. Some moments aren't just planned, they're engineered. I didn't want Rachel to suffer in silence. I wanted her to see it unravel. I wanted to watch the panic bloom in her eyes, the moment she realized every lie was a wire she tied around her own neck. And now it was time to pull. At exactly 8:58 a.m., I stood at Harold's front window, dressed in a plain gray shirt, a ball cap pulled low, watching 2 sheriff's deputies and a court liaison step out of an unmarked sedan. They walked across the street and knocked on my old front door. Rachel answered, holding a mug and wearing my old sweatshirt. How poetic. Mrs. Duran, the court liaison said, we're here to serve you with civil and criminal litigation papers, along with an emergency property freeze. I saw her blink, confused, still groggy. She called for Jason. That smug idiot stepped outside like he was ready to threaten someone. That's when I stepped out of Harold's driveway and walked across the street, slow, deliberate, silent. Rachel saw me first. Her jaw dropped. Jason turned next and I swear to God he flinched. "You're supposed to be in the Middle East," Rachel whispered. I smiled. "Guess your calendar's off." The sheriff handed her a thick stack of documents. Evidence of identity theft. Forgery charges. A freeze on all bank accounts and investment holdings. Subpoenas for Jason's communication records. A cease and desist on the Palm Springs property sale. And the kicker? A criminal referral for insurance fraud conspiracy. Jason tried to speak. His voice cracked. "This is harassment. She's terrified of you." I cut him off with one sentence. "Tell that to the judge who already dismissed her fake abuse claim, and saw your text about accidents at sea." The color drained from his face. Rachel's hands shook as she flipped through the papers. "Miles?" "It's Kelly," I snapped. "You lost the right to call me anything else." The court liaison gave them 20 minutes to gather only personal clothing and toiletries. Everything else? Frozen pending court inventory and fraud investigation. Rachel tried to push past me to speak, but the deputies blocked her. "Don't," I said, not out of anger, but finality. "There's nothing left to say." And there wasn't. They loaded a single duffel bag and 2 suitcases into Jason's beat-up black Infiniti. He didn't even look at me. Rachel did, eyes wild, tearful but still searching for some angle. There wasn't one. I had already changed the locks. Back at Harold's place, I watched them drive away. She tried to dial my old number 3 times that afternoon. Left 2 voicemails. "Please, this isn't what it looks like. We were going to come clean." I didn't know Jason was planning all that. The second message ended in sobs. I didn't answer either one. 3 days later, they tried to check into a short-term rental using Jason's prepaid card. It got declined. The account had been frozen too. Rachel tried to call the crypto broker they planned to use for laundering the stolen funds, but Marcus had already submitted the legal block. The account was flagged and locked. Then came the second blow. The Palm Springs home offer was revoked due to material misrepresentation of funds and pending litigation. The deposit? Lost. The agent? Furious. Jason screamed at her over text, and we had those messages too, synced from her phone like all the others. "You said it was safe. You told me the money was clean. You ruined everything." She didn't reply. She couldn't. Meanwhile, Gina filed a motion to restore my ownership of the stolen rental properties. Within a week, 3 of the 4 homes had been legally reassigned, titles reverted, tenants notified. Rachel had nothing left. No house. No income. No savings. Not even a car. Jason sold his to pay a lawyer he never got to use. And then came the part one hadn't expected. The FBI's white-collar crimes division contacted Gina. Turns out, another woman had reported Jason Drew for financial coercion and identity fraud. Now, with our stack of evidence, they were opening a formal investigation. Jason was done. Rachel? She was listed as a co-conspirator. By the end of the month, the final court hearing was scheduled. Rachel filed a desperate motion to appear by phone, claiming anxiety and trauma. The judge denied it. "If you could forge documents in person, Mrs. Duran, you can attend in person." She showed up looking nothing like the woman I married. Gaunt. Pale. Her arrogance evaporated. Jason. He didn't show. He'd skipped town 2 nights earlier, took her last few $100s and disappeared. Rachel stood before the judge with a court-appointed attorney who barely spoke. Gina presented everything. Texts about the accident. Bank transfers. Stolen identity records. Real estate fraud. And the final nail, the drafted death notification letter she intended to send to the insurance company. The courtroom was silent. When the judge finally spoke, his voice was razor-sharp. "This isn't just deception. It's malice. A calculated campaign to erase a man who spent his life providing for you. You're lucky we're only here in civil court today." He ruled in my favor on every count. Full asset restoration. Property titles returned. Rachel banned from contact. Pending referral for felony charges. Divorce granted with 0 alimony. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply stood up, thanked the judge, and walked out. As I passed Rachel's seat, she whispered one last thing. "I loved you once." I stopped. Looked her in the eye. "Then you should have fought for me, not against me." And I walked away. You think the story's over when the judge slams that gavel down. You think revenge has a finish line. But sometimes, the worst lies come crawling out of the wreckage. It had been 2 weeks since the final court hearing. I was back in the mountains of northern New Mexico, staying at a friend's off-grid cabin, finally getting a taste of quiet after months of war. No notifications. No lawyers. No surveillance. Until one night, Marcus called. His voice low, urgent. Kelly, we missed something. My stomach turned. What? There's a second phone. Turns out Rachel had a burner, registered under the name Gina Reynolds, a name she used in college when she worked small-time promotions gigs. It was how she'd been communicating with Jason behind my back long before the financial stuff started. Marcus had found it by tracing a Google account recovery email that pinged my cloud backup weeks earlier. It was subtle, almost invisible. But not to Marcus. He pulled the data, the texts, the location logs, and what we saw changed everything. There was a series of messages, dated over a year ago. He doesn't even see it. Too busy offshore. Can't believe this started with a stupid bet. I think I could do it, really ruin him. At first I thought it was just rage texting. But then came a voicemail file. One she left for Jason. A drunken rant. I listened to it 3 times, pacing on the porch under moonlight. He always made me feel small, you know? With his quiet loyalty and boring reliability. Like I owed him gratitude. I'm not AF *****NG trophy he gets to hang on the wall after work. He deserves this. I want to break him. Her voice slurred. But her words? Crystal. Freaking. Clear. This wasn't just greed. It wasn't even just betrayal. It was resentment. It was years of watching me succeed while she felt like a prop in a life she didn't build. So instead of leaving like a grown adult, she decided to annihilate the life I created. But then came the final twist, the one that turned my stomach sideways. Marcus forwarded me a file the next morning. Kelly, check this PDF. Pulled it from her Google Drive. It was a scanned document, signed, time-stamped, and notarized. A prenup revocation form. One we'd agreed on 10 years into our marriage, back when I trusted her enough to tear it up. Except, I never signed it. She forged my signature. She had deliberately revoked the one legal protection I had in place when our assets started stacking up. Back when I started investing heavily into out-of-state real estate before I created Avalanche Holdings. She'd done it back when she still played the loving wife. And kept it hidden. That forgery opened the door for her to drain accounts and act like everything was community property. It was premeditated years before she even met Jason. I remember sitting on the porch swing that morning, staring at the pine trees and thinking. She didn't just cheat on me. She studied me. She studied my habits, my patterns, my weaknesses. She engineered my destruction with the patience of someone who'd waited long enough to stop pretending she loved me. And yet, she still lost. Because even with her forged prenup revocation, even with the con, the fake abuse, the stolen investments, she missed the one truth that saved me. I never put all my eggs in one basket, especially not in hers. Marcus filed a motion to reopen criminal charges based on the new discovery. The fake prenup revocation? That was document fraud. And it opened the door to wire fraud, real estate fraud, and bank fraud across multiple states. Rachel was hit with a multi-state indictment. Her court-appointed lawyer withdrew. A new one took over, federal defense now. I didn't gloat. I didn't text her. I didn't even tell anyone except Marcus and Gina. I just watched. The final reversal came during her pretrial conference. Court documents showed that Rachel tried to plea bargain by throwing Jason under the bus. Claimed he manipulated her. That he masterminded everything. But Jason? He beat her to it. He'd been picked up in Arizona on unrelated fraud charges, and in exchange for leniency, he handed over everything. Emails, voice recordings, even screenshots of Rachel bragging about how she was going to fake her husband's death and take the money. Her plea deal collapsed. The DA filed for conspiracy to commit insurance fraud and attempted identity theft, with enhancement due to the large sum and multi-jurisdictional activity. Rachel was now looking at real prison time. I got a letter 2 weeks later. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting. Rachel. Kelly, if you read this, I just want you to know I never thought it would go this far. I just felt invisible. Like I didn't matter. Like all the money in the world couldn't buy back the years I lost waiting for you to come home from the ocean. I didn't want to hate you. I just wanted to be someone again. And Jason, he saw me. Or at least I thought he did. I'm sorry. For all of it. I didn't write back. Because some things don't deserve a reply. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. And mine came wrapped in barbed wire, but it did come. 6 months after Rachel's indictment, I stood in the back of a courtroom in Harris County. She sat at the defendant's table in a beige prison-issued jumpsuit, hair pulled back, wrists bound. She looked nothing like the woman I once loved. Gone was the sparkle, the sharp tongue, the lipstick smiles. What sat in front of me was someone who had hollowed herself out chasing a fantasy she never truly understood. Jason never came back for her. Last I heard, he was already onto another Mark in Nevada, a recently divorced surgeon with a 7-figure estate and 2 kids. History repeating itself. Rachel pleaded no contest to reduce charges. Fraudulent transfer of marital assets. Identity theft. Attempted insurance fraud. Document forgery. She was sentenced to 5 years with parole eligibility after 3. She would also pay court-ordered restitution, not that I expected to see a penny of it. But for me, that wasn't justice. Justice was knowing she would never touch my legacy again. After the sentencing, I walked outside into the muggy Houston air. Gina and Marcus waited for me by the courthouse steps. "You could have pushed for more," Gina said quietly. "Yeah," I nodded. "But I don't need more. What I needed was already mine again. The house. Sold. The rentals? Transferred back. The investments in Avalanche Holdings? Still strong, especially with the new land deal Marcus secured in Colorado. The life I had before Rachel? Rebuilt. But different now. Better. Cleaner. Mine." A month later, I moved into a small 2-bedroom cabin outside Missoula, Montana. Quiet. Snow-dusted pines. No neighbors in sight. The kind of place where you hear birds before engines, where your phone doesn't buzz unless you want it to. I brought 3 things with me. 1. My dad's reclaimed wood tool chest. 2. A photo of my mother from her garden. 3. A folded copy of the original prenup Rachel tried to erase. Not as a trophy. As a reminder. Because betrayal doesn't always end in a scream. Sometimes it ends in silence. In the echo of your own voice, wondering how long someone you loved was planning your destruction. The biggest lesson I learned? It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about justice. It was about reclaiming yourself after someone tried to erase you. I still get emails from former crewmates on the rig. They ask if I'll come back, consult on safety drills, train new hires. Maybe someday. But for now, I split my time hiking, reading, and building furniture by hand. I volunteer at a veterans center down the hill. Some of those guys lost limbs overseas. Me? I just lost the illusion of a marriage. I think we all carry invisible wounds. One afternoon, I got a letter forwarded from Gina's office. No name. No return address. Just 5 words in careful cursive. "I hope you're finally free." I didn't need to read the signature to know who it was from. Rachel. I sat with it for a minute, then I tossed it into the fire and watched the past burn. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.